A lot of the people who will be watching this video don't know a lot about our ancestral farm, Johnson Road and that entire farm. But some of you are familiar with it because you remember being there maybe as children or on various family events. What's one of the most memorable things about that area that you remember from when you were growing up?
Bet I'm gonna give you a lead.
Yeah, I would definitely like to hear because the only memory I have is the dirt flying driving down the road. I don't remember what the house looks like. I don't remember any of that. So I would love to hear, what.
One of the, I guess, most memorable things, and there were many, when I came, because I lived in Nashville, so we came to Giles County and we came to the country. That's what we were looking forward to. And we came through Pigeon Roost Road. That was the name of the road. And that was the name of the little community, from what I understand, was Pigeon Roost. And I guess one of the main things was when we really got up near the family farm. Our grandfathers, who is Transom Johnson, Reverend Transom, home was the first property that you really saw. Okay. And it was a huge, huge, nice house. And of course that house no longer stands because several years ago it burned. Mm-hmm. I never got to know my great-grandfather or my great-grandmother, Transom or Edney, because they both passed away. Transom passed away in 1939, February of 39. And the next year, 1940, great-grandmom Edney passed away. And she passed away. Hers was heart attack related. His was similar, but his was brought on by an asthmatic condition. Oh, okay. So those were things that they passed away and left us actually approximately 1 year apart from the other, their death. And then another thing that I remember was that coming on up the road, there was an orchard on the right side of the road adjoining my grandmother's property. And we partook of the apples, the pears, and all of that. I mean, there were huge. There was really a huge orchard. The place is still there, but I don't know if they're producing any fruit of that type anymore. There's so many things I could share. I used to go to up to my aunt's house, who is my great aunt and uncle. Uncle Munn, and we called her Aunt Liza. That's just the way we said it. But the main thing about their home was that they had a piano in there, and I loved trying to play the piano. So I would always entertain myself on the piano in her home.
And Betty, you mentioned that Aunt Liza. Aunt Liza could cook the best tea cakes I ever had in my mouth. And also lemonade. I would go down in the summer, stay for a month or so. I love going up to Aunt Liza just to get the tea cakes and the lemonade.
Oh, wow.
And she was just so sweet, and she would just have them on a plate that be so pretty. But that's one of my most memorable moments.
And you could indulge.
Yes, ma'am.
So was it pretty common for you all to go during the summers, or was that just a thing that you did to come and visit family members, or were there special occasions, holidays, or anything like that?
No. We went on holidays as well.
I spent 2 weeks of summer. That was my summer vacation. That was my mom is Maddie, and that was just the time they sent. That was their getaway. Let's send the kids out of school summertime. They sent us to the country for 2 weeks, and I've got some childhood stories of running around chasing chickens, things like that. What kids do, you know, they had to. You all remember the plum tree and pear tree that used to be right beside Big Mama's house there facing the road. There was a pear tree there. And they didn't want us to climb it, but as kids, you know how we do.
Find your way going
right,
up.
exactly. But things like, I tell you things that really excite. Well, as a child, the wooden bridge we crossed to go up the hollow. The old concrete bridge on the main drag that everybody would knock. It would be fixed, and all of a sudden somebody's family member knocked the corner off of it. You remember, we'd be scared. It was one lane. The old bridge across the, was it?
The wood.
What's it? Pigeon Roost?
Pigeon Roost. Creek.
The creek. The bridge that crossed it one way. I mean, single bridge. Two cars could not pass. In other words, if you saw somebody coming on the other side, you'd wait, let them cross, vice versa, stuff like that. So it was tight, but hey, it was the country. Enjoyed it. Things like that, and just there was also on the same road. I don't know. There's a little spring down below. You talking about?
They ran across where
everybody would get stuck.
Road.
Yeah. I mean, you know, we're talking about dirt road back in the day. So there's a little creek before you started up the hill where Aunt Bay lived, the house you mentioned, where Auntie. We're talking about home. The family would have to go down. At times, I mean, back in the days, the old school cars just couldn't get up that hill. They'd get stuck. I remember members pushing, rolling the pants legs up. Some of my uncles, you know, I'm a child at the time, so some of my uncles and older cousins pushing the cars at the ditch just to get up to my big man. Not as far as Uncle Mon, because he lived on up, and things like that. Just laughing, getting cars stuck out of the mud, and it's like they finally, I mean, over the years, they finally dredged it, put a little dirt over it where nobody, and gave it some drainage. I mean, it'd rain, it'd be, I mean, it's a nice little spring going across there. I mean, you had to go through water. If it had rained, you know, problems, you had to go through some water to get up in there. That's just some childhood stories, and just being in the country thing. You know, okay, here I am, I'm from the city. When used to houses men sitting on bricks. You know how they had the foundation set up off the ground with the old bricks? We actually at times played under the house. So things like that, you know what I mean? I mean, that's just childhood stories, and you know, me and Charles Robb, as a kid, Charles Robb and Uncle Mon, they, you know, when Charles was still there at home when I grew up, you know, I'm smaller, so had the mules hooked to the wagon. I used to see them, they plowed the fields, and Uncle Mon run us off because we kids. Y'all kids moved back, which is for our safety. He had the old plow behind the mule. Charles Robb had that wagon that they had. They talking about riding buckboards. As a child, I experienced that because that was one of the roughest rides. And I did it with Charles Robb. He taught me how to milk. Matter of fact, Charles Robb taught me how to milk a cow.
Aside from me riding that horse without a saddle.
Uncle Mon did. He had dairy. He had a few dairy cows, right? I remember them straining the milk. They strain it, put it in the big metal can. The milkman would come up the road. I mean, I don't know how many times a week, but he'd come up there and he'd pick up the can. Okay. But Charles Robert actually taught me how to milk a cow. I mean, I'm a young man, and you know, he'd come in, he'd get them cows in the afternoon. We call ourselves helping, we didn't know what I was doing.
At the milk place.
Wasn't
that the name of it?
Yeah, but they had them calls for them cows. I can't, you know, I just remember them doing it, you know, they herd them cows back to the barn.
Oh, wow.
Hey, they got it, him, Charles Robert would come in there and they milked them cows, and I remember them straining that milk and sitting it out on the road for the milkman to come get. But that's a lot of more stories. Toting them, what, 5 2-gallon buckets of water?
Oh, yes. Yes, because it was a spring. Yes, we had to walk from the house, which was probably at least 10 to 15 minutes. For me, it was seemed like a 10 to 15 minute walk.
We kids,
and that's just getting to the well.
Right.
And then you get, and it was a spring.
Exactly.
And the water just ran, just
fresh water just
fed the well, you know, the spring.
So
that was amazing.
I hear y'all saying up to So Big Mama is your grandmother.
Right.
Okay, and then you said not that house, but the other. So how many houses was out there? How many houses and was it just our family or?
It was 2 down on the lower end, which counting the home, the old home place. It was 2 at that time. It's 3. It's only 2 now on that end, and then you have
like
to
so
go
they didn't rebuild
go
them.
past the flat.
The flat.
Which was an area. It was really the road. It was dusty, but it was flat
It was
right
flat,
in that
right,
area.
right.
And then you get kind of up a little elevation, and you get up to Uncle Bun and Aunt Liza's.
Okay.
Right, right.
Okay.
Yeah, as the road progressed up to Uncle Mon, the road just kind of got a little steep. There used to be a big rock that used to get hung on up at Uncle Mon's house.
I remember that.
I mean, it's big. The rock covered the whole road, and if you had one of them low riding cars back in the day, you'd get stuck on that slab of, and that was leading up to Uncle Mon's house. And actually, beyond Uncle Mon, that's where the road ended.
Okay.
At his house. You remember it was a path. Now you used to walk up through there and call yourself going to town, going to dump back in the
going
day.
over
You
the
remember the
hill.
dump was over here. But there was a walking path when you got, but Uncle Mon's house was like dead end at that time. Y'all remember that? Yeah.
I do.
Like I said, the road now, the road was cut through
The
now,
road,
but back
talking
then.
about the road, it is quite different now
now.
as compared to what it was
Okay.
when I first can remember, as far back as I can remember. My dad was driving the car to try to get up from the bridge. You
Right.
talked about the wooden
The old
bridge.
wooden bridge, right.
To get from that wooden bridge up to Big Mama's house sometimes took 30 or 40 minutes, depending on the weather and the
weather.
condition of the road. But the road was just big rocks, huge rocks. Nothing that had been paved or dug out so that cars could travel.
And
They
narrow,
just-
and narrow.
And narrow.
You
like
had to
he
get
said,
over to
it
the-
was
let
only
somebody
one car
by,
going
right,
to go
if you
through
met
that
someone.
area. But he struggled, and by the time he got up to that house, and I can remember, he had huge sweat drops just pouring off of him. He was wringing wet. And I can remember that specifically because it happened every time. And it took years, and I mean lots of years. Just recently, and I say recently, maybe the past 20 years, 25, 30 years at the max, has been since they renamed the road
Yes.
from whatever it was called back then. It was a rocky road. I mean, real rocky. That wasn't gravelled.
Was it, let me
At
ask you
all.
this, then Big Mama, their mailbox used to sit down on the main road. You remember you had to walk all the
Yes,
way
we
down there to the
We
main,
walked down there in
the
the
house,
summer.
like the one that faced by Ben Lee, that side. They mailbox sat way
That's on
down there.
Bledsoe Road.
Is that Bledsoe? Okay, see, I told you you'd help me with some of them names. So, see, I remember walking to me and Larry Jean walking to the mailbox way over there.
Yeah,
we
but
used
when
to
I
cut,
come
we used to cut
along-
through Mr. Bill Lee's property.
Oh, well, we're not going to talk about that.
Crawl
When I
on the-
come along,
crawl
when
on the
I come
fence.
along, when I come along, Deborah and I used to have to walk down to the
To the mailbox.
mailbox, and I tell this story, that bridge you talking about that always got washed out.
Right.
We were going down there, and my cousin Jamie would always, he used to love to follow me, so he wanted to go to the mailbox with us. So I took him, he was
Right.
a little fella. But we were going to go across the
Y'all finna
water,
cut
the creek that time instead of
Okay.
going
Oh.
around the bridge.
Okay.
And, Big Mama always tell us, don't go through that
The creek.
water.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what we done? My cousin Oren was with us this day. So Deborah and I, we're going to take the kids across to the other side one at a time. We're going to walk on the rocks. Well, y'all know Jamie being Jamie. He going to come through the water by himself.
My nephew.
He falls in the
So he get wet.
So we had to stay out till he dried. so we can get
Y'all scared to come back.
But let me revisit the conversation about the well. I'm a little younger than Betty and Bobby. But when I come along, the well was right there behind the house, but you still had to go down the hill there.
Well, see, they
And
dug it.
which-
Let me help you with that one. They dug it to be right there, and it actually, I guess it went dry because they dug the well right beside Big Mama's house. And we were getting water there for a while with the chute. You know, we
With the
stick the
chute
chute down in there. You remember that? Stick the chute.
Oh, that was
Yeah.
more recent. I'm talking
Yeah.
about the
That's what I
spring,
said
the
when I
whole
come
Yeah,
along.
well.
yeah, but we had to end up going down. The water left this hole and it ended up, they tracked it down the hill, down the bluff.
When
right
they were
behind
trying
it.
to get water closer
Right,
to the house.
right. We used to go down the bluff with the same chute, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we sticking it down there and fill it up. And I think that ended up going dry too. I don't know what
Eventually
fed
did.
it.
I think
Because
so.
you know that they put their little bucket on there.
But let me
But back when I was a child, when I come along, you know, they would sent Deborah. Now they sent us down there. Well, Deborah's used to going down there and doing and bringing her 2 buckets of water back, you know. But I wasn't. By the time I
Gonna
get
spill
back
more.
up there,
Well, y'all were close to the house. I'm
Right.
talking about when I went way
I
up.
still
We used to have
had
to walk
a
up there
half a
for one.
bucket by the time I got back. So
And they didn't
Your
have
water was finished.
refrigeration then.
she said, "Don't
Don't go back and get no more. You don't do
she
water
said, you don't
duty.
spill half the water."
Y'all knew there was a spring. You know where Aunt Bay's house, where they built Aunt Bay's new house in between Big Mama and Uncle Ma, in other words, when they put her house. There was a spring to the right of her house. I think building her house kind of affected the spring. There used to be a spring right there beyond, in other words,
Before you get up to Uncle Mun.
yeah, there was a spring
It was a
between where
spring off over there.
Yeah, it was a spring over in there. So I don't know.
That's what I'm familiar
yeah, right.
with.
Building Aunt Bay's house affected that spring some
Oh, you think
because
so?
yeah, it stopped. We used to go there, you know, after they built it. It didn't. I don't know how it affected it, but yeah, there used to be a freshwater spring beyond, and in between. In other words, in the old days, between Big Mama's house and Uncle Ma's house.
And I can remember about that spring when you go down there, they had butter that, you know, how they churn, you know, maybe you don't know.
I heard.
But the old
Churn
fashioned
in the
churn
butter.
where they would make butter. And they would put the butter in the spring to keep it cool. They didn't have
Yeah.
refrigeration.
Okay. Yeah, I see that.
They didn't
makes
have
sense.
refrigeration. And they put it on a little board like thing and set it in well, what I would call a well, but it was really an open spring where you could go in and you can dip your water out, but it kept
It was
the-
cool. Mhm.
it was cool enough. You could drink right from it. That
Okay.
was unusual, but it was different, interesting too.
Okay.